Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between, welcome to another episode of the Chaps Chat Cats, a part of the Hoops Crew Media Network. My name is Jake. I'm joined by Sambo and Johnny. How are you, chaps?
Pretty good.
Good, going well.
Excellent. Going to try and slam this show out quick, smart, because we are currently in the middle of a massive rainstorm up here, and my country bumpkin internet struggles at the best of times, but can just suddenly drop out when the rain gets too heavy. So we'll try and smack through the show. And on the show tonight, we've got Cats v Tigers, round 12 preview. So we're going to dive into all of that. And then for our Patreon subscribers, we're going to deliver our Patreon match predictions, which we do every week on the preview pods. So if you want to get that part of the show, make sure you go on over, sign up for a free trial on the Hoops Crew Patreon, extended versions of our shows, early access to things like behind the play interview shows, VFL men's and women's coverage of the Cats teams, Wednesday news wraps with Ben and sometimes myself when the day job allows, all of that. Get on over, start a 7-day free trial. And chaps, before we get into it, we have to also thank, on the public show side of things, our network sponsor, Valhalla Brewing, the nectar of the gods. If you're in the Geelong CBD, get along to the tap room. If you're in North Geelong, try out the brew hall. Grab yourself a horn of ale at Valhalla Brewing. We thank them for their sponsorship of this show and all the others on the Hoops Crew Media Network. Let's jump in, chaps, because there's a hell of a lot to talk about on the show tonight. The big question, of course, can the Cats stop the slide? Now, I was going back through the head-to-head record in the home and away season. Geelong is 6-4 against the Tigers in the regular season. Obviously, I think we're 0-3 against them in the last three finals. So that's a 6-7 record against them if you include finals. But 6-4 in home and away seasons. They haven't beaten us at Kardinia Park since 2006. Now, keep in mind, they've also only played us at Kardinia Park 10 times since 1997. And in those 10 games, we are 9-1 against them. That one defeat in 2006 was a game where we kicked 12-18, 90 to 17-8, 110. That was one of those results that really did cost the Cats finals in 2006. But Johnny, I want to come to you first. Won the clearance there out of the middle. I'm kicking to you inside forward 50 to start us off here. How are you feeling about this game in general? Up against the Tigers, a few key outs, some interesting stuff at selection, obviously on a 4-game losing streak. Where are you at?
Yeah, pretty good. I think, each week I always say the Cats are going to come away with a good victory. It hasn't happened the last 4 times, but we're coming up against a pretty decimated Richmond side. Well, they did play well last week, so who knows that we may be playing a team that's back in form. And if the Tigers are back in form, then the Cats have got to watch out because, they can be a threat, even with all these injuries. They gave Bombers quite a big scare. So I don't think it's going to be as straightforward as everyone is probably going to be saying. I think it could be really close if the Tigers turn up. But on the other hand, it could also be a bit of a murder scene if the Tigers cannot produce that performance that they did last week. Because, as I said, their injury list is pretty extensive. But, informed Dustin Martin, Shai Bolton's playing pretty well. Like, he's been played the best player this year. He's played, as far as I'm aware, really well every single game. He's been like the shining light. So I wouldn't go into this game full of 100% confidence. I think confidence of saying, yeah, the Cats are going to win this by 100 points easy. I think it's going to be a bit tighter. I think it could be a bit of a tight match, especially if the Cats let that slide of 5-6 goals happen again this week. Then it could be really, really threatening. But I think they can turn this around. it's a good time to turn it around. Get a win against a trend, against a team that is struggling a fair bit. Yeah, I'm confident that we can get it, but not. I can't say we're going to win it by a lot at this time. Who knows? Things could change, but the way both teams are playing, one slowly getting better, one sort of not playing our best for the 4 quarters. But if Cats play 4 full quarters of the game, they could win it pretty comfortably. But if we do have that 1 quarter where we don't play that well and let the Tigers kick a flurry of goals, that's going to be a bit of a tight contest.
As they say, the best time to win was last week. The second best time is now. Sambo, last time that we played the Tigers down at Cardinia Park, they hadn't won a flag yet in the 21st century. So between then and now, they've won 3 flags. What are you feeling going into this game? Johnny obviously just mentioned there, if the Cats turn up, play 4 quarters. Do you think it's sort of, would you agree with the statement that maybe it's not talked about enough, that it's not been that the Cats have played 4 bad quarters, that there's actually been some good footy played in these games that Geelong's lost? It's just, it's maybe been overshadowed by how badly it's gone when it has gone bad.
Yeah, I mean, if you for those Patreon subscribers who are there for our Chaps Chat stats on the recap, we obviously dove into comparing our quarters for the season, and it was pretty striking how few quarters we'd lost. Like, I mean, we only lost 4 games, but even within that, the fact that we've only lost a sort of handful of quarters. And I won't get into that too much, but anyone that's interested, obviously, jump over and check that out, because it was really interesting.
7-day free trial.
7-day free trial. That's it.
Free trial.
Price of a cup of coffee. Actually, it's cheaper than a cup of coffee these days. I can't say.
So much cheaper.
Inflation.
price of a bubbuccino. Yeah, so I think it's true, and I think a lot of the players as well, like, I think a lot of the issues, and Chris Scott's alluded to this too, that it's both a positive and it's a negative, in that I think a lot of the issues that are present have been present all year, and that's what Chris Scott has been very adamant about in his press conferences, that, like, they've been aware of the issues, and the only reason it wasn't really discussed is because we were winning. We were getting the wins. And so as we talked about, 3 of these 4 losses could have been wins anyway, and we could be flag favorites. Nobody could be discussing any of this stuff and sort of overlooking these sort of lulls, these patches where we just concede a large amount of goals. And it might not be until we start losing a few, and then people kind of look at it and go, well, actually, if you look at it, there's this trend here. So I think it was kind of getting overshadowed early, and then it's kind of getting overshadowed now that we're not far off. We're a fair way off for patches of games, and it's just been enough to really hurt us, especially when we haven't been quite as efficient then turning it around and going at it again. But we're supposedly still the second team, best team in the comp for scoring off turnovers, which supposedly is the most important stat for a premiership winning side. So if you want to get into the old data analytics and how they go about that. But so yeah, like, I'm not feeling that bad, to be honest. Like, as we discussed about the actual losses, could have stolen those. There's things to work on. And as far as this week, Richmond's one of those sides that I hate playing. I'll be nervy. But as with a couple of our, even a couple of our losses, we don't really have any right to lose this game, but we shouldn't go into it expecting to walk away easily.
You know what the other good thing is? There's still 11 games left to play, so there's still plenty of time to turn things around. As people say, you want your bad form to happen around this time or early in the season, like after you've bagged 7 wins. If you've run into some bad form for say 4 or 5 weeks, you still got 11 10 weeks to fix all these issues, even like 12 weeks. There's still 12 games left all up, like 12 weeks left after this week. So there's plenty of time to turn this around. And, we've got a good base. The foundation's there. It's just putting the structure up around it.
I stand by my preseason expectations. Make finals, maybe win one. Anything more than that is gravy for me. I feel like that's where we're at in terms of our list development, all that. I'm not saying that if everything went absolutely right, you got a terrific run of injury and stuff, that you can't make a crack at a deep finals run. And if you happen to get to a granny, fantastic. But really, let's make finals. That's a big tick for me. If you happen to win one, massive tick. I feel like this list is in a developing phase. I feel like the more I watch the VFL and the more I watch guys playing at AFL level, there's some dudes who are just still developing. And when you don't have your A-listers like Dangerfield or Blixarves out there, it's going to be a tougher run. And as you chaps were just saying too, we could have stolen some of those games we've lost. We all have acknowledged and said on the pod, we could have also lost some of those games that we won earlier in the season. Could definitely have lost the Saints game. The Dogs got very close to us. We pulled off one of the great wins of the recent couple of seasons against the Crows when we went over there with a whole host of outs and Dangerfield going out midway through that game. There's been some really good wins. There's been some frustrating losses. Here we are at 7-4. Let's see what we can do against the Tigers. Chaps, we're going to talk team selection. Johnny, I won a clearance out of the center and kick to you. We've won another one here. I'm going to kick to Sam. We've got to spread the ball around here. Sambo,
Nice.
This one's straight for you to lead onto and mark. Team selection. There's a couple of changes. They are not the ones that many would have liked. The one that a lot of people wanted to see was the one that I felt was unlikely to happen, as much as it's frustrating to people. No Mitch Hardy into the side, not even as an emergency. What we've got is Mark O'Connor returning after a week off. We've got Gary Rowan returning after the week out with the injury. They replace Mark Blixarves, who is suspended, Jai Clark, who is suspended. We have Jack Henry, Sam De Koning, Jake Kolodjasny across the back line. Halfbacks, Tom Stewart, Max Holmes, and Zach Guthrie. The centre line of Ollie Dempsey, Tanner Bruin, and Jack Bowes. Half forwards, Tyson Stengel, Brad Close, and Brian Myers. The forward line of Jeremy Cameron, Hawkins, and Ollie Henry. The followers listed as Toby Conway, Tom Atkins, and Mitch Duncan, with the interchange to come from Oisin Mullen, Gary Rowan, Mark O'Connor, Shannon Neal, and Zach Toohey. One of those players will obviously be the sub. Sambo, your thoughts on the ins? Obviously, we knew the outs were coming. They're a situation where they've been forced. What do you think? Do you like what you see? Are you disappointed with what we're not going to get to see? Where are you at with selection?
I'm obviously happy to see Rowan back. Pretty happy to see O'Connor back too. I think O'Connor's been playing really well. Last sort of this season and even last year in a pretty blighted year, I thought O'Connor was playing some of his career best football. So I'm glad to see him back in. Obviously, there's nothing you can do about Blix and Clark. And I would have liked the only thing really I would have liked to see Parfitt in. I think he's also been playing so well and he's been showing so many signs. But it did feel last week like his was the kind of presence we missed a little bit. As far as Mitch Hardy and other BFL players as well go, I still hold firm to trusting in the selection team that has got us this far, that never really puts a foot wrong. I can watch highlights, I can listen to people tell me how good he is, I can do whatever, but there's no way in hell, even if I was seeped in Twitter and watching every game, there's no way that I know more about what he brings to the club and what the club is looking to get out of him and what they're hoping to do with him. So yeah, I was keen when we got him on board and everything, and I've heard really good things. But I'm pretty happy assuming that they know more than me, and that there's reasons and there's thinking behind this.
Yeah, no, I tend to be in the same camp. I said on Twitter earlier, as I said to you, chaps, when was the last time the Cats had a player who was tearing it up in the VFL but couldn't get a look in at AFL level and then went elsewhere and starred? Now, there's a couple of exceptions to the rule in terms of some people on Twitter brought up Shane Mumford, who went on to have a very good career at the Giants, but Mumford did get games in the AFL team. It was just a matter of, it couldn't get a game past. I think it was Mark Blake, couldn't get a game. Ottens was still obviously there and playing pretty well. I think that was the roughly the same time. Obviously had Jordan Clark, left the club and went on to Freo, where he's playing decent footy. But, we won a flag the year after he left. And he had got games at AFL level. So I don't think we ever thought that Clark was not an AFL standard player. I think it's very hard for me to identify a player that was, say, getting you 35, 37 touches in the VFL like Hardy's doing. An example that comes to mind is Charlie Constable, who then goes on and has a massive AFL career elsewhere. Charlie Constable pretty much went to the Gold Coast and did exactly the same thing. Played very well in the twos and just could not crack the AFL team. I just think the few exceptions are exactly that. They're exceptions to the rule. The Cats, 99.5% of the time, correctly evaluate the talent on their list. And I truly believe that every week they're not playing favourites. They are putting out the team they feel is best equipped to win the game. Johnny, do you have any thoughts on selection? Like, I imagine you sort of park your car in the same garage as Sambo and I in terms of trusting the club, but is there anything in particular that you like here about the selected side or don't like? Like, that can be a thing too, but my mind looks at players like Shannon Neal, retains his spot again. Toby Conway, for instance, retains his spot again. Ollie Dempsey's still in the side. Jack Bowes. Anything stand out there to you? Would you like to have seen, for instance, the emergencies? We've got Brandon Parfitt, Connor O'Sullivan, and Sean Manor as the emergencies. Would you have liked to seen any of those guys in, for instance?
Only for one reason. That's for our Patreon only segment, which you have to find out what that is later on if you're a Patreon, or you can sign up for a 7-week free trial. No, look, I'm the same as you guys. Like, what more do we know than what Chris Scott and the coaching staff knows? I'm sure there is a really good reason why Hardy isn't playing. Maybe, he gets the ball a lot in the VFL level, but can that transition straight into AFL level? Is that other parts of his game that isn't at a level that they're comfortable playing in yet? Who knows? But yeah, I think the rest of the teams, I'm the same with you guys as team on the team selections. So yeah, I can't really question it because what more do we know than watching a game? They've got all the other information out there. They've got all the information on the VFL side, AFL side, how players are tracking, and all that other stuff. So as far as I'm aware, the Cats are going out with the best 22 that they can pick, and if this is it, then this is it. I'm comfortable with it. I'm not going to say that the coach has no idea what he's doing or saying that he needs to be given the sack because that's not going to get us anywhere. What's another coach going to do?
Have we lost Jake? He's frozen.
I think we've lost Jake. Unless he's playing a really good game of Stare.
Yeah. He's just thinking about it really thoroughly. Yeah, it's well, there he goes. It's one of the, it's one of those ones where like, it's just bananas to me. I know you're sort of being facetious, John, and bringing up the sacking of Chris Scott, but like, it's just bizarre to me that people are even like that this is kind of like not that I've seen a lot of people calling for it necessarily, but it feels like that's where people are headed. That they're bringing up that he's lost his mind and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, it's just it feels like an absolute fantasy that people are living in, a fantasy land. We have lost Jake, so we'll soldier on. We're at the 20-minute
We will.
mark. We've covered what do we cover, John? We've covered team
Um,
selection.
What's one thing you want to see?
One thing we want to see. Good memory.
Thank you.
I'm trying to think of something other than just I want to see the back line working well. and
How
whatnot.
about one
I
thing you don't want to see, but don't want to see is one quarter fade out.
Yeah, I guess that's one thing you could see. You could want to
Yeah.
see is a full quarter performance. But I'll try and think something a bit more specific.
Go for it.
As Jake slides back in, I think the one thing I want to see is not a player I talk about a lot. But Sam de Koning. He's been much sort of derided in the media, and like I know Jack Henry seems to be copying a lot of the brunt from like the Twitterverse, and Sam de Koning seems to be copying a lot of heat from like the media side of things. That he's the one who's underperforming, and I think he's still operating at a pretty high level, really. But I would like to see Sam de Koning. I've got no sort of crystal ball reason for why I think this game should be the one, but just as a bit of a subjective thing of I think it would be good for us, it would be good for the team, and it would be good for him to see him have an absolute cracker and just have some of those game winning kind of clutch moments that he was known for a season or two ago.
Like that a lot. Johnny, what do you got? Have you already done yours? How much did I miss?
I've done a half one, which was just I want to see a full. Don't want to see one thing. I don't want to see is a 1 quarter fade out. I want to see 4
Yeah.
quarters. But I'm going to choose. I'll go with something else. That was just a bit of a general
Warm
one.
up
But
ones.
I want to see the forward line dominate this week. I feel like they've come close to dominating, but they haven't really got there yet. So I just want to see them really take apart this weakened Tigers team and just bury them, put the sword to them.
Bury them early. Kick some goals early and often.
Well,
I'm going to
speaking
go.
of Tigers teams, Shea Bolton's out, along with Dion Prestia
go.
and Stanley Green.
Dan Prestia was too afraid to come
Interesting.
back.
So it's what Mansell,
Yes.
Brian Mansell, Jack Graham, and Caleb Smith making the coming in with Caleb Smith debut game.
Welcome to the funhouse. I am going to say I want to see Tom Atkins play around the ball. He got pushed by Parfitt when Parfitt came in, and he got shoved into the back line. Jai Clark also seems to get preference ahead of him. For goodness sake, I have seen people asking for Tom Atkins to be dropped for the last several weeks, and I just couldn't disagree more doggedly. This guy was one of our most reliable on-ball players the last couple of seasons, and in that charge towards the flag. The back half of that season is really where he cemented himself. He had massive performances in back-to-the-wall games when we were down and out against Port Adelaide and no one could lift. He lifted. I believe that was in the 2022 season. And then last year even, the Melbourne game, he was massive. In the absence, I believe, of Patrick Dangerfield, it was Tom Atkins who stepped up. Get Tom Atkins back on ball doing what he does best, laying lots of tackles and winning hard contested footy. Enough of this, of him doddering around the half back line. Just get him in there. He's proven he can do the job. Put him on the football. That's what I want to see. That's my opinion.
Love it.
All right.
No.
And that's it. That was your Cats v Tigers round 12 preview with only one rain interruption so far. Bit like the cricket season. That's all. We're going to go now behind the Patreon curtain to do our Patreon match predictions. So as we've said on a number of occasions, you know what to do there. If you want to check that out, go sign up for a free trial. Thanks to everyone for listening. Thanks to everyone for watching. If you'd be so kind, hit the subscribe button on YouTube, hit the follow button on Spotify or Apple Podcasts so our episodes pop up in your feed. Hit us up with a like. Drop a comment if you're on YouTube. Drop a comment below. What do you like? What do you not like about team selection this week? Whatever. It all helps. We appreciate it. Helps pump us up the algorithm. We appreciate you pumping us up the algorithm. That's all. Until next time. Go Cats.
Go Cats.
Go Cats.